Good afternoon, everyone. It's almost St. Patrick's Day here in Butler County, and if you've been gardening for a while, you know what St. Patrick's Day means to many gardeners. St. Patrick's Day has traditionally been the date where people plant potatoes in Kansas. Now, while it's a traditional date, we really need to look at the soil temperatures to determine when we should be planting our potatoes. Potatoes will sit in the ground if the soil temperatures aren't warm enough, but you run the risk of rotting your potato pieces. So it's best to wait to plant your potatoes until the temperatures are between 45 and 50 degrees or warmer. That's the temperature when your potatoes will start actively growing and sprouting. And you can figure that temperature either by measuring it at your house, or you can use the KS Mesonet system. They have weather stations all over the state that measure things such as precipitation, temperature, wind speed, and soil temperature. So if you take a look at the one in Butler County, it's going to give you an idea of what the temperatures are for your location. Now, they also give you your current soil temperatures, but the Mesonet station will also give you the 7-day average, plus your 7-day maximum and your 7-day minimum. That gives you a good idea of what soil temperatures have been doing over the last week or so in your area, and if it's safe to plant. Now, before we get started with planting our potatoes, we have to get them ready. Typically, we don't plant a whole potato this size. Usually we plant smaller chunks about this size. So let's take a look at your potato anatomy and show you how to get your potato pieces ready so that you will be ready to plant when your soil temperatures are warm enough. So our potatoes come in a wide variety of sizes, shapes, and colors. This particular variety is a white-skinned variety. A common one you'll see are russets. Red-skinned varieties are also very common. You can also buy some unique varieties. This is a fingerling potato variety. You can see how kind of dark, almost reddish pink that interior is. So that's a different color you can purchase. There's purple potatoes, really whatever color and shape you want your potato to be in and taste, you can buy. So when we go to purchase our potatoes, we're purchasing disease-free certified seed potatoes. We've heard of the Irish potato famine. We don't want to recreate that in our backyard. So always buy certified disease-free stock. Don't use leftover potatoes that you get from the grocery store. Those may work okay for a year or two, but you could be introducing diseases into your garden that are going to impact future crops. So certified seed-free potatoes, you can buy them from a local garden center, a hardware store, any of your big box stores or larger stores would have them, and even some of your grocery stores may sell them as we get closer to planting. So as you pick up your potatoes to purchase, always inspect them as well. This one is pretty free of blemishes and cuts. There's no real super soft squishy parts. It's got a fair number of these eyes. So these eyes are where your new potatoes are going to grow from. These potatoes have already started to sprout, so it's easy to see those eyes. But even if they haven't sprouted, they're usually little indented spots in your potato. And you'll want to have a couple of those per piece that you plant. So this potato really is in pretty good shape. Now let's compare him in color to this one. Can you see that color difference between the two? This piece is much darker. You can see this discolored scabby location. If you could push it, it's actually hard compared to this potato that has a little bit of give to it. This potato likely, even though it is disease-free, has a scab disease, which doesn't impact the potato's growing. It doesn't really impact its flavor other than if it gets really bad, it can lead to very discolored looking potatoes, but we don't want to spread this to our soil. So this is a piece, or this is a potato that if I wasn't making a video, I wouldn't have purchased because it does have that issue. So always inspect your potatoes and look at the difference between the two. So when we go to start cutting our potato up, I kept this piece because you want 2 eyes, a minimum of 1, preferably 2 eyes to a piece of potato. And our potato pieces don't need to be this big. About 1.5 ounces, about the size of a part of a golf ball, or roughly 1.25 inches in size, is what you want your potato piece to be. And you can see that there's a little growth point on this one. So this is about where you want them. I left this one intact strictly because of that diseased issue. So we're gonna set this one aside because I'm definitely not planting that. So let's take a look at this potato. I want at least 2 eyes. You can be as scientific or you can be as crazy with cutting your potatoes as you want. If you want them to all be, you can get them all in fairly uniform sizes, and just ignore how many eyes they have. So some pieces may have 1, some pieces may have 3. I tend to prefer to cut my pieces specifically so I have the number of eyes I want. So this top one, I've got an eye there, and though it's hard to see, there's a little eye going there. So I'm gonna cut this top piece off, and that is my first piece of potato. So first piece of potato, I've got 2 eyes in there. I'm gonna set this one aside to harden up and get ready to go. So as we keep going, I've got a piece right here. This one is a little bigger, but I've got 3 eyes for sure. I've got 1, 2, 3. So I'm gonna set him aside. Then the rest of it gets a little trickier because I've got a cluster of eyes right there. I've got one there, so I'm going to cut this piece so it's on its own with 3 eyes. And I'm probably going to cut this piece in half. I've got an eye right there, and I've got another one coming. So I'm gonna cut that piece in half, and I am gonna set these aside. So I'm gonna let these set in a warm location without sunlight for a minimum of 3 or up to 7 days. We want them to develop this leathery texture, we call it. So they're still kind of squishy, but this piece is pretty firm. These are 2 different potato varieties, but you can see the difference from this piece that I cut up about 4 days ago to this freshly cut piece. So this leather is what we want it to look like. That's going to help prevent these pieces from rotting if we do get really wet soils that get cooler. So these are kind of our potato pieces. I'm going to let these set so when my soil temperatures are warm enough, it's safe to plant these outside. All right, we have got our potatoes all cut up and ready to grow. Again, this one that had some disease issues, I'm just gonna throw these pieces away, but the rest of my potatoes are ready to plant. So thank you guys for joining us. Look for some more gardening basic videos coming up. And if you have any topics or anything you are interested in learning about that we haven't done a video on, please feel free to contact our office, the Butler County Extension Office here in El Dorado, and we will look at making another video. So thank you guys and happy growing.